He returned home at dawn, frowned when he didn't see the usual warm meal, gave an order, and then went into the bathroom. After he came out, I remained indifferent, watching TV. He took a designer handbag from his suitcase and examined it to see if he liked it. The pink bag was the kind young girls usually liked. Before, whenever he tried to appease me, he would ask what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. Now, he simply made up for things with dull gifts. I didn't even glance at it, switched the channel, and casually asked, "When are you free to go to court?" Lukmin was always busy, so busy that even on our wedding anniversary, he had his secretary choose the fruit, and even the timing of the divorce had to follow his schedule, set by me. Don't be angry anymore. Hatu Nien doesn't know you hate roses. It won't happen again. He poured himself a small glass of whiskey, sat in the armchair opposite me, and curved his lips slightly into a faint smile. Hatu Nien was his childhood sweetheart, who had admired him since they were young. Right after graduating from a prestigious university, she became his personal secretary. They were always together, even sharing a double room on business trips. Actually, I didn't blame Hatu Nien for clinging to Lukmin. She was like a swan trying to fly into a rooster's nest, but failing. If he didn't give her a chance, no woman could get close. I yawned, my eyes filling with tears. Not hearing my response for a long time, Lukmin assumed the matter was over. He asked about our 7-year-old son's ranking in the recent exam. I shook my head. I didn't know. It wasn't that I was deliberately hiding it to spite Lukmin. I truly didn't know. The Luk family always prioritized elite education. Their children were raised in a large villa from a young age, with tightly packed schedules of lessons every day. Thinking about it now, it was ridiculous. I was clearly the one who gave birth to her, yet the time I spent with her was so little it could be counted on one hand. Because of this, I had cried and made a scene, but the Luk family remained completely unmoved. In their eyes, marrying into the Luk family was already a blessing from a previous life. Everything else was just wishful thinking. Lukmin pinched my straight nose and told me to pay more attention to my child. If this continued, Hatu Nien would resemble her mother more than me. I understood what he meant. Yesterday was Friday, the only day I was allowed to pick up my child from school. I arrived an hour early, waited until it got dark, waited until the school gates closed, and only then did Hatu Nien call to say that the old lady had asked her to take the child back to the villa for dinner. Over the phone, I heard Lukmin voice softly asking Hatu Nien if she wanted some soup. Coming back to my senses, I gave Lukmin a faint, indifferent smile. Wasn't that exactly what you wanted? I would leave immediately and give her the title of Mrs. Luk. I didn't know which sentence hurt Lukmin, but he fell silent for a few seconds before suddenly becoming angry. My patience has limits. But Brother Kim, don't cause any more trouble. He stood up, and after taking 2 steps, I said coldly, "Oh, right, I forgot to tell you. I had a miscarriage." A month ago, that night, when he received a distress call from Hatu Nien, he rushed out to help her avoid being drugged. I had severe abdominal pain and drove myself to the emergency room. The doctor said the pregnancy was over 2 months along, but there was no heartbeat, so it ended in a miscarriage. Ironically, when I learned the baby was gone, I felt relieved. Walking out of the operating room alone, I knew it was time to end everything. In the living room, Lukmin stood with his back to me, gripping his wine glass so tightly that his knuckles turned white. He didn't ask why I hadn't called him. He knew very well how many times I had called that night, and unfortunately, no one answered. It was better that no one answered. It proved that I was not capable of being a mother. Lukmin walked into his study, and Thandao closed the door. 8 years of marriage, countless arguments, and every time, I was the one who gave in first. But this time, he didn't wait for a knock from his understanding wife. Half an hour later, he opened the door and searched the entire house, but I was no longer there. I was Lukmin first love. No one could have imagined that a rich, intelligent, handsome, and aloof young man would fall in love with a carefree girl like me, someone who smoked and spent all day in bars. Our first meeting was far from pleasant. In a dirty, smoke-filled alley, a top student was being harassed by a group of unruly youths demanding money. I happened to pass by, and someone whistled at me. So I sped my bike straight into the crowd, taught the thugs a lesson, and unintentionally helped the young master escape danger. From that day on, Luk Min Kwon stuck to me like a persistent dog. He waited for me after school, followed me closely, and refused to leave even when I tried to chase him away. He gave me a bouquet of roses, which I coldly threw into the toilet and returned to his desk. He personally prepared an expensive lunch for me, which I casually handed to a beggar on the street. My sisters and I laughed, saying I was raising a pet. A wealthy, lovesick dog. Everyone could see that he and I belonged to completely different worlds. But it was that same person who, when my alcoholic father beat me so badly I couldn't go to school, stormed into my house, carried me, barely alive, and rushed me to the hospital. While the doctor was stitching up my wounds, he turned his back, his shoulders trembling uncontrollably, his hands constantly wiping his face. The doctor, both helpless and amused, asked, "You're not the one who's injured. Why are you crying?" He said he felt an inexplicable, agonizing pain in his chest that made it hard to breathe, and even foolishly asked if he needed an electrocardiogram. In the hospital room, Luk Min Kwon awkwardly peeled an apple. I didn't want to feel that pain again. "But Kim, please don't get hurt again. I beg you." I mumbled my agreement while eating the ice cream he bought, then glared at him fiercely. "So, do you want to be my boyfriend?" That day, both of us blushed and couldn't say anything more. I once told Luk Min Kwon a secret no one else knew. Every time my father got drunk and beat my mother until she was half dead, the next day a withered rose would always appear in the house as an apology. So if one day he wanted to break up with me, he didn't need to say anything, just a rose. "Foolish boy, we'll be together forever." The 18-year-old boy hugged me tightly, not letting me say another foolish word. To escape my father's harassment, Luk Min Kwon sent me abroad to study. His father, wanting to force us to break up, cut off all his financial support. At that time, besides studying, we had to work 2 part-time jobs to make ends meet. Life was hard then, but we never forgot to tease each other and laugh while brushing our teeth. In our small apartment, we argued loudly, but our eyes were always filled with each other's image. How wonderful it would be if we could live like that for the rest of our lives. "Mrs. Nook, are you okay with that?" The doctor's concerned voice pulled me back to reality. Today was the 3rd day I had been away from the villa. My old insomnia had returned. After receiving a prescription for sedatives from the doctor, I went to get the medicine alone and coincidentally ran into Hatu Nien. "Mrs. Luk, why are you at the hospital alone?" Hatu Nien blinked innocently. Seeing that I didn't answer, she pretended to be concerned. Startled, she said, "Your baby. Don't be sad. You're still young. There will definitely be other chances. Rest assured, it won't happen again." Just as she finished speaking, I saw Luk Min Kwon walking over with a gloomy expression. I didn't know why he was angry. I only saw him tightly gripping the spray bottle in his hand. Hatu Nien softly complained, saying she had accidentally sprained her ankle while going upstairs. Such a minor injury didn't require going to the hospital. It was all Luk Min Kwon's fault for insisting she come, causing her to miss work. Just as it was my turn to get my medicine, seeing the bag in my hand, Luk Min Kwon was startled and couldn't help asking, "Where do you feel unwell?" Seeing that I ignored him and prepared to leave, he snatched the medicine bag from my hand, opened it, and saw it was for insomnia. "When did this happen?" "Kim-ka, I'm talking to you. Tell me, how long do you plan to keep causing trouble?" Luk Min Kwon thought my leaving home was just another trick to get his attention. That was why he had never asked where I had been or what I had done these past few days. His cold tone unconsciously rose, drawing the attention of people around us. I sighed, gently took the medicine bag back from his hand, and softly said, I didn't cause any trouble. Perhaps my voice was too soft, too gentle, making Luk Min Kwon think I was giving in. He offered to take me home first before taking Hatu Nien back to the company. But I shook my head. Work was more important. I could go home by myself. Talking about home meant my own house. My alcoholic father died in an accident, leaving behind a settlement. The old house I once desperately wanted to escape from had now become my only refuge. Watching my lonely figure walk away, Luk Min Kwon pressed his lips together, about to follow, but Hatu Nien held his hand. She looked pale and weak, saying she suddenly felt unwell, probably due to low blood sugar. Luk Min Kwon hesitated for a moment, but in the end chose not to follow me and turned back to the nearby vending machine. After the lawyer finished drafting the divorce papers, I received a call from Luk Min Kwon. His voice was urgent and low. "Our son is sick. Be at the villa before 6 o'clock." Without waiting for me to ask what was wrong, he hung up. I printed the divorce agreement, feeling as if a heavy burden had been lifted. When I arrived at the Luk family villa, I found everyone already there, gathering as usual. My son sat between Luk Min Kwon and Hatu Nien. To an outsider, they looked like a real family of three. My eyes reddened to walk toward my son, whom I hadn't seen for a long time. I gently touched his cheek and softly asked, "Are you feeling unwell?" His face, his features, looked almost exactly like Luk Min Kwon. My son looked uncomfortable, pushed my hand away, and looked at me warily, his eyes silently asking Hatu Nien for help. My heart felt as if it were pierced by countless needles. Hatu Nien hugged my son affectionately and said innocently, "The child isn't sick at all. Sister Kim, did you accidentally take the wrong sleeping pills and remember things incorrectly?" As soon as she finished speaking, the entire Luk family looked at me with disdain. I knew clearly that they had always mocked me, especially Luk Min Kwon's younger sister, Luk Mo Hee. She had always thought I came from a low background and was unworthy of her brother. Before, even though she often made things difficult for me, I endured it out of consideration for him. But this time, I no longer wanted to be endlessly tolerant. I confronted Luk Min Kwon, saying that he had called me and told me our son was sick. I rushed over, yet his mistress said everything was fine. So who exactly was lying, and who was telling the truth? Or were you the ones who were actually sick? I didn't expect you to react so strongly. Hatu Nien was startled and stammered as she tried to explain, but I didn't give her the chance. I lowered my gaze slightly and warned her. "Hatu Nien, you're sober now. If you like being a dog for a married man, that's your business. But don't drag my child into it to compete for favor. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless." My words were sharp and direct, causing Hatu Nien's face to turn pale, her eyes instantly reddening with resentment. Bang! The sound of chopsticks hitting the table rang out. Luk Min Kwon's face darkened, his gaze sharp as knives as he stared at me. "But Kim Ka, all you do is act unreasonably jealous. The child has had a cold for days. Have you, as a mother, shown any concern? Besides, we agreed on 6 o'clock. Do you think making everyone wait is a joke? If you don't respect time, then go eat with the servants in the back hall." Luk Min Kwon was a man of his word. No one in this house dared to defy him. Hatu Nien's eyes briefly flashed with triumph. "Oh," she pouted in feigned sympathy, "just wait and watch the show." Luk Mo Hee raised her brows, her eyes full of contempt. Under everyone's gaze, I walked over to Butler Vu. "When you're free, come to my place. I'll cook for you." I didn't want him to misunderstand that eating with them was humiliating. After saying that, I looked straight at Luk Min Kwon and gave a mocking smile. He truly disgusted me. Seeing me turn to leave, Luk Min Kwon could no longer hold back. He quickly stood up, grabbed my wrist, anger burning openly in his eyes. "Where are you going? Did I allow you to leave?" His arrogance made me furious. "What does it have to do with you? Let go." Receiving a signal from Hatu Nien, Luk Mo Hee immediately sneered coldly. "Kim Ka, after all these years, you still haven't changed, still don't understand manners. A wild chicken will always be a wild chicken, never worthy of standing on a high platform." Hearing this, Luk Min Kwon turned and scolded Luk Mo Hee, silencing her. Taking advantage of his distraction, I finally broke free from his grip. The burning pain in my wrist ignited all the anger I had suppressed for years. My gaze swept across everyone, finally settling on Luk Mo Hee's smug face. I asked her, "Do you know what true lack of education looks like?" As I spoke, I slowly walked toward her, picked up her favorite Western soup bowl, and without hesitation, poured it over her head. Everything wasn't entirely unexpected, but no one had imagined that the usually obedient daughter-in-law of the Luk family would act so outrageously. For a few seconds, the entire villa fell into a dead silence. It wasn't until Luk Mo Hee realized what had happened that she let out a shrill scream. Only then did everyone snap out of it, rushing to defend her. The family gathering had been peaceful, but in an instant it turned into chaos. Yet inside, I felt a strange sense of joy. Was this what they called the chaos of human life? This kind of noisy, bustling scene was actually quite wonderful. The only problem was when all that chaos was directed at me alone. It was a bit overwhelming. After all, I only had one mouth. In terms of volume, I couldn't possibly outshout them. The only thing I could do was find the leader among the crowd. Just as Luk Mohi trembled and raised her hand to strike me, I grabbed her hair and shoved half a loaf of uncut bread into her mouth. Luk Mohi immediately fell silent. I curled my lips into a cold smile, looked at Luk Min Kwon and said, "That's what you call shutting up, understand?" Seeing the Luk family's faces turn pale, especially the old lady slamming the table, pointing at me, trembling as she cursed, I knew they still didn't understand what true lack of education meant. I sighed inwardly and walked over, abruptly yanking the tablecloth from the corner of the dining table. Food scattered everywhere. No one in the Luk family could remain composed after that. Those who have everything always fear those who have nothing left to lose. Perhaps it was because my actions were so reckless, yet my eyes remained clear and steady that for a moment no one dared step forward or say another word. I looked at Luk Min Kwon, shrugged slightly, and said, "From the day I stepped into the Luk family, I've wanted to do this." Looking back on the past 8 years, I realized that I had truly endured far too much. How impressive! Luckily, from now on, I won't have to be cautious about anything anymore. The old lady of the Luk family clutched her chest, her voice trembling as she demanded that Luk Min Kwon divorce me immediately. Before I could even open my mouth to thank her for fulfilling my wish, Luk Min Kwon spoke up in front of everyone. Her mental state hasn't been stable lately. Please don't hold it against her. But Kim Ka, clean up this mess. This is my last chance for you. As soon as he finished speaking, shock was written all over Hatunyan's face and the entire Luk family. Even I felt the urge to reach out and check his forehead. Are you sick? Are you insane? After scolding Luk Min Kwon, I calmly took the divorce agreement out of my bag. In front of everyone, I threw it straight at him. "Son, I'll come see you when I have time." After saying that, without a trace of hesitation, I turned around and walked out of the Luk family gate. As the car was about to start, I saw Luk Min Kwon chasing after me in the rearview mirror, with Ha-Tu-Nyen following behind. His hand was cut by shattered dishes, but he paid it no attention, continuously knocking on the car door, ignoring Ha-Tu-Nyen's tearful pleas for him to bandage it, insisting that I get out of the car to talk. But Luk Min Kwon didn't expect me to completely ignore him, step on the accelerator, and drive away. That night, my phone rang nonstop. Even though I set it to silent, the screen kept lighting up again and again until I couldn't stand it anymore and removed the SIM card. Unable to reach me, Luk Min Kwon switched to messaging me on WeChat. He asked when I had started planning the divorce. Was it just because of those 999 roses? If so, he had already apologized. He couldn't understand why I was still so stubborn and unwilling to let go. He said I shouldn't give up the love we had built over 8 years because of someone else's mistake. Our son was still young, and I couldn't bear to let him lose such a complete family. I thought for a moment, then replied, "You need to calm down." This was the phrase Luk Min Kwon had used most often in recent years whenever I lost control and shouted. I understood the power of those words very well. Sure enough, less than 2 minutes after sending the message, he fell silent again. For the next week, he didn't contact me at all. But I knew he had secretly driven to the old apartment complex where I lived. At that time, I was standing on the rooftop watering the plants. I saw the familiar license plate, stretched lazily, stood there a little longer, then went back inside. Although we weren't officially divorced yet, I had already begun a new life. I found a temporary job at a convenience store near the park by my house. After being a housewife for so long, I had almost forgotten how to interact normally with people. Fortunately, most of the customers I met were patient and kind. Among them was a male university student who walked his large golden retriever every day. Occasionally, he would ask me to keep an eye on his dog tied outside the shop. Later, as we grew more familiar, I learned that he lived in the same residential area, practically a half neighbor. Sometimes after dinner, we would meet downstairs while he was walking his dog. We would chat for a while, take a short walk together, and sometimes he would invite me to try some of the food he had cooked. Gradually, we became quite close friends. One day, near the end of the week, I finally received a message from Luk Min Kwon on WeChat. He asked me to come to the company to handle the divorce procedures. Previously, Luk Min Kwon didn't like me going to the company to see him. He was probably embarrassed to let others see his plainly dressed wife. When I received the message, I had just finished my shift at the convenience store. Without changing, I went straight to his office with my light makeup still on. When I arrived, Luk Min Kwon was on the phone. He glanced at me several times and gestured for me to wait a moment. I noticed Hatunyin wasn't there, so I gave up the idea of making coffee and started playing games on my phone to pass the time. Only after finishing a round did I realize that Luk Min Kwon had been standing behind me, watching me play. "Sign it," he said, withdrawing his gaze and tossing the divorce agreement onto the coffee table. I didn't sign immediately as he expected, but carefully read each clause. Compared to what I had anticipated, the agreement was quite generous. But recently, I had watched quite a few videos by lawyers online about divorce, so I was no longer as easy to deceive as before. I proposed that Luk Min Kwon transfer some overseas properties he had purchased over the past 2 years. In return, I will not demand my original share of the company. Luk Min Kwon was stunned for a moment, then quickly contacted his legal advisor and asked them to send over a revised agreement. Just as I was about to sign, he covered the signing area with his hand. "Look carefully," he said, his expression darkening. "The custody of the child is mine. Once you sign this, from now on it's no longer related. Of course I know that. I also know that although the law grants me visitation rights, if the Luk family refuses, I may never see my son again for the rest of my life. It would be a lie to say my heart doesn't ache, but no matter how painful it is, this marriage must end. At least my son won't have to endure a life lacking material comfort with Luk Min Kwon, and he will have a wealthy father. It's like winning from the very beginning." Luk Min Kwon didn't expect me to still be able to joke at a time like this. He let out a cold laugh, gestured for me to leave. "I have other matters to attend to. That's all for today." I watched him tear up the divorce agreement. After a moment of silence, I gave a sarcastic laugh. "It's fine. I'll take you to court because I've truly had enough of you." "Stop! I told you to stop." Luk Min Kwon had never lost control like this before. He chased after me, ignoring the curious gazes of his subordinates, following me all the way to the elevator. "You're seeing another man, aren't you? You're using excuses to meet him, aren't you? Otherwise, how could you be so heartless as to abandon even your own son?" The elevator doors opened, and Hatunyin stepped out. She was supposed to have the day off. If it weren't for a female colleague tipping her off, she probably wouldn't have known I had come to the company. Coming from a well-educated family, Hatunyin tried to calm Luk Min Kwon and gently persuaded him to let me go. But he coldly pushed her hand away, frowning as he snapped, "This is between me and my wife. It has nothing to do with you." Hatunyin's face turned pale instantly. She glanced around, noticing the pointing fingers. Before I came, almost everyone in the company had tacitly assumed she and Luk Min Kwon were a couple. Now that this had happened, she didn't dare imagine the gossip she would face afterward. Hatunyin burst into tears and ran down the stairs. Seeing this, I let out a soft laugh and looked at Luk Min Kwon. "Aren't you going after her?" I had never truly resented Hatunyin. From beginning to end, the only one who betrayed our feelings was Luk Min Kwon. I began reconnecting with some old friends, Vung Mi Ling and Du Kun Kun. Back then, we were known as the Three Wild Cats. They were childhood companions who had helped me escape my toxic family and accompanied me through those dark years. In fact, they had always known where I lived and kept in touch. It's just that as adults, bound by unspoken rules, they chose not to disturb me. I told them about Luk Min Kwon's despicable behavior. After a few drinks, they even suggested we go burn down the Luk family's ancestral house. We laughed and cried, eventually hugging each other tightly and sobbing without restraint. Gradually, my insomnia improved. Unfortunately, before I could fully enjoy a month of peace, Luk Min Kwon came to disturb me again. He showed up uninvited, standing outside my door from 3 in the afternoon until 1 in the morning, causing neighbors to come and go, nearly calling the police. Reluctantly, I let him in. He looked noticeably thinner. his eyes no longer carrying that familiar confidence and dominance. According to Aunt Vu, after I moved out, Look Min Kwon often returned to the old villa. At first, the old lady took charge, hosting lavish meals every day to entertain her son and grandson, even inviting Ha Tu Nien to stay for a few days, with Kwang Min acting as a matchmaker between them. But no one expected Look Min Kwon to become increasingly picky about food, his portions gradually shrinking. That alone would have been fine, but later his temper grew more and more unstable. Once, he stayed in the storage room all day just to look for something from his high school days. When he couldn't find it, he lost his temper and scolded all the servants in charge of the old belongings. A few days ago, in front of everyone, Look Min Kwon kicked Ha Tu Nien out of the bedroom just because she entered without permission. They had a huge argument. Ha Tu Nien cried so hard she couldn't breathe, accidentally slipped and fell down the stairs, breaking her ankle and nearly disfiguring her face. The old lady, furious that he was blamed for ruining his own marriage, suffered a heart attack. That night, an ambulance took both of them to the hospital. They haven't been discharged yet, and Look Min Kwon is still shaken. Looking at his haggard and exhausted appearance, I guessed he hadn't had a good night's sleep for a long time, just like I hadn't when I lost my child years ago. The first thing Look Min Kwon said was, "I'm sorry." He said he had thought about it a lot and finally understood why I wanted a divorce. 8 years of marriage. I had no voice, always yielding, always enduring until I was worn out. He knew I had completely lost hope in him. Hearing that, I shook my head. Disappointment was something I felt 2 years ago. Divorce was a decision made after careful consideration. Disappointment isn't the frightening part. What's frightening is, it's when all feelings have disappeared. It's despair, and after despair comes letting go. After all, we were once husband and wife. I thought for a moment, then said, "Look, Min Kwon, I've already started trying to live a new life. You should also sort out your feelings and begin your own life." Look Min Kwon looked around the living room, forcing a smile. "Do you remember how I brought you here and took you away from that place all those years ago? Even though 8 years have passed, I still often dream of you from back then. Kimka, I admit I once neglected you, but I never betrayed you. In this life, I've only had one woman, and that is you." I asked him, "What exactly counts as betrayal?" "You lie beside me, yet the moment someone else calls, you immediately leave. You enjoy the admiring gazes of other women, but when you return home, you expect me to always prepare hot meals for you. You know that's unfair, and it isn't love. Both you and I know what loving someone should truly be like." Look Min Kwon suddenly seemed to remember something, his eyes turning red as he said in a low voice, "I know it's all my fault. Please give me another chance." "Min Kwon, I'm truly unwilling. I beg you, please." I asked if he still remembered what he said at my father's funeral hall that year. He said he would always stay by my side. We would grow old together, die on the same day, be buried in the same grave. He said he would never leave me. Had he forgotten everything? Promises of eternal love, sweet words of affection, who hasn't once spoken them with complete sincerity? But the problem was never time. It was people. Because you changed, I was forced to change as well. Just then, the doorbell rang. I stood up to open it. It was the young neighbor. He glanced inside and saw Look Min Kwon, a subtle look in his eyes. "Do you need my help?" Before I could respond, Look Min Kwon suddenly pulled me behind him and threw a punch at him. It seemed Look Min Kwon had seen me with the neighbor before. No wonder he had questioned whether I had a new boyfriend. The two men didn't bother asking anything and immediately started fighting, fists and kicks flying wildly. I stood nearby, irritated, trying to stop them, but failing. In the end, I said, "If you want to fight, go outside. Let me make it clear first. It has nothing to do with me. Even if you get hurt, don't come looking for me." With a loud bang, I slammed the door shut. I don't know how that fight ended. I only know that from that day on, Look Min Kwon stopped bothering me. About 2 months later, the old lady of the Look family was discharged from the hospital and proactively contacted me. Unlike before, she said her grandson missed me very much and asked if I could visit when I had time. I rode my newly bought motorbike, dressed in an extremely cool riding outfit, and appeared at the school gate. That day, I was certain no single mother there looked cooler than I did. Children are easy to please. Just something new and stylish is enough to earn their admiration. I took my son to eat American-style fast food, something he loved but the Look family never allowed him to have. After eating, he asked, "Mom, can you pick me up again next week?" I smiled, put a helmet on him, and took him back to the Look family villa. I hadn't planned to go inside, but the old lady and Aunt Voot were waiting at the door. Their eyes were filled with complicated emotions as they invited me in for a cup of tea before leaving. My son also held my hand, urging me to go upstairs to play. I had never seen his private room before, and I couldn't bring myself to refuse, so I followed him upstairs. On the third floor, I unexpectedly saw Lukmin Kwon in the study, dressed in casual home clothes, attending an online meeting. I stood there in a daze for quite a while until my son tugged at my sleeve, pulling me back to my senses and into the room. My thoughts were scattered. I played with him for a while, then checked the time and said, "Mom has to go now. If I have time next week, I'll come see you again. Can you come to my place? All three of you come home with Mom." Blood ties can't be severed. I don't know whether those words were taught to him by the Look family, but I could feel his sincerity. If there's a chance, then yes, but only you. Mom won't invite your father. Even in front of a child, I didn't want to lie. I was afraid of giving him hope only to disappoint him. As I stepped out of the room, Lukmin Kwon was already waiting nearby. He looked at me and smiled. "Are you hungry?" I had eaten less than 2 hours ago, but seeing the faint lines at the corners of his eyes, I hesitated for a moment before not refusing his hint. "I'm hungry too." "Why? Are you going to cook?" "Yes, I'll cook for you." We went down to the kitchen and dining room on the first floor of the villa. There was no one there. Lukmin Kwon asked what I wanted to eat. When I said anything was fine, he took out a clean white clay pot and began washing rice to cook porridge. In fact, Lukmin Kwon's cooking had always been better than mine. Back when we were abroad, I would often act spoiled and insist on sharing meals with him. At that time, we didn't have enough money to eat out. My heart felt as if it were pierced by countless needles. Hatunyin hugged my son affectionately and said innocently, "The child isn't sick at all. Sister Kim, did you accidentally take the wrong sleeping pills and remember things incorrectly?" As soon as she finished speaking, the entire Look family looked at me with disdain. I knew clearly that they had always mocked me, especially Lukmin Kwon's younger sister, Luk Mo-hee. She had always thought I came from a low background and was unworthy of her brother. Before, even though she often made things difficult for me, I endured it out of consideration for him. But this time, I no longer wanted to be endlessly tolerant. I confronted Lukmin Kwon, saying that he had called me and told me our son was sick. I rushed over, yet his mistress said everything was fine. So who exactly was lying, and who was telling the truth? Or were you the ones who were actually sick? I didn't expect you to react so strongly. Hatunyin was startled and stammered as she tried to explain, but I didn't give her the chance. I lowered my gaze slightly and warned her. "Hatunyin, you're sober now. If you like being a dog for a married man, that's your business. But don't drag my child into it to compete for favor. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless." My words were sharp and direct, causing Hatunyin's face to turn pale, her eyes instantly reddening with resentment. Bang! The sound of chopsticks hitting the table rang out. Lukmin Kwon's face darkened, his gaze sharp as knives as he stared at me. "But Kim Ka, all you do is act unreasonably jealous. The child has had a cold for days. Have you, as a mother, shown any concern? Besides, we agreed on 6 o'clock. Do you think making everyone wait is a joke? If you don't respect time, then go eat with the servants in the back hall." Lukmin Kwon was a man of his word. No one in this house dared to defy him. Hatunyin's eyes briefly flashed with triumph. "Oh," she pouted in feigned sympathy, "just wait and watch the show." Luk Mo-hee raised her brows, her eyes full of contempt. Under everyone's gaze, I walked over to Butler Vu. "When you're free, come to my place. I'll cook for you." I didn't want him to misunderstand that eating with them was humiliating. After saying that, I looked straight at Lukmin Kwon and gave a mocking smile. He truly disgusted me. Seeing me turn to leave, Lukmin Kwon could no longer hold back. He quickly stood up, grabbed my wrist, anger burning openly in his eyes. "Where are you going? Did I allow you to leave?" His arrogance made me furious. What does it have to do with you? Let go. Receiving a signal from Hatu Nien, Luk Mohi immediately sneered coldly. Kim Ka, after all these years, you still haven't changed, still don't understand manners. A wild chicken will always be a wild chicken, never worthy of standing on a high platform. Hearing this, Luk Minkwon turned and scolded Luk Mohi, silencing her. Taking advantage of his distraction, I finally broke free from his grip. The burning pain in my wrist ignited all the anger I had suppressed for years. My gaze swept across everyone, finally settling on Luk Mohi's smug face. I asked her, "Do you know what true lack of education looks like?" As I spoke, I slowly walked toward her, picked up her favorite Western soup bowl, and without hesitation, poured it over her head. Everything wasn't entirely unexpected, but no one had imagined that the usually obedient daughter-in-law of the Luk family would act so outrageously. For a few seconds, the entire villa fell into a dead silence. It wasn't until Luk Mohi realized what had happened that she let out a shrill scream. Only then did everyone snap out of it, rushing to defend her. The family gathering had been peaceful, but in an instant it turned into chaos. Yet inside, I felt a strange sense of joy. Was this what they called the chaos of human life? This kind of noisy, bustling scene was actually quite wonderful. The only problem was when all that chaos was directed at me alone. It was a bit overwhelming. After all, I only had one mouth. In terms of volume, I couldn't possibly outshout them. The only thing I could do was find the leader among the crowd. Just as Luk Mohi trembled and raised her hand to strike me, I grabbed her hair and shoved half a loaf of uncut bread into her mouth. Luk Mohi immediately fell silent. I curled my lips into a cold smile, looked at Luk Min Kwon, and said, "That's what you call shutting up, understand?" Seeing the Luk family's faces turn pale, especially the old lady slamming the table, pointing at me, trembling as she cursed, I knew they still didn't understand what true lack of education meant. I sighed inwardly and walked over, abruptly yanking the tablecloth from the corner of the dining table. Food scattered everywhere. No one in the Luk family could remain composed after that. Those who have everything always fear those who have nothing left to lose. Perhaps it was because my actions were so reckless, yet my eyes remained clear and steady that for a moment no one dared step forward or say another word. I looked at Luk Min Kwon, shrugged slightly, and said, "From the day I stepped into the Luk family, I've wanted to do this." Looking back on the past 8 years, I realized that I had truly endured far too much.